So what percent are you confident that the shooter was Wardell Foose, a.k.a. Poochie? Like, if you were going to put a number on it.
I'm really confident. I'm not as confident as I am with Orlando Anderson and Tupac. You know, I mean, there's just absolutely no doubt whatsoever.
100% confident on that.
100%.
But you can't say that for Wardell Foose.
For Wardell Foose, I'm probably closer to 95. Only because nobody can positively identify him as the shooter as we do with Orlando, right? But because of the information that was provided by the intermediary, by Suge's female accomplice, her description of everything, and her statement that it was Wardell Fouse, that it was Poochie that she paid to do the hit, and then Poochie's own individual background as a hitter for Suge and being suspected of doing a whole bunch of other murders. Well, he's definitely capable of doing it. He fits the profile of somebody that would carry out something like that. So those things collectively make the best case for who the shooter is. Because aside from him, we don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
It's certainly not Amir Muhammad. That's conclusively been disproven.
That's 100% disproven.
That is 100% disproven.
There's not even a 5% chance he's the one.
There's not even a 0.5% chance that he's the one.
There's a second point here that Reggie wanted us to address, James. I'm not familiar with this. Phil Carson, former FBI agent, has a theory on this that I guess aligns with Randall Sullivan's.
Yeah, again, I don't know this individual, never met him, so I can only criticize him professionally. And I think that he, like Russell Poole, has formed an opinion based on very loose circumstantial information and then refuses to accept the information that refutes that. And so he just sees one big, massive conspiracy that on its face is completely unbelievable.
Now, you can understand some people might find it difficult that you're criticizing professionally a trained FBI agent, someone that should see everything you're saying. But you're saying, even though this guy's an FBI agent, trained by the most powerful government on earth, he still got it wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. and I'll tell you why. First, when he came on, he wasn't on the job or anything. He was a young agent when he was assigned this case, and he came out of white collar crimes. Now all of a sudden he's dealing with this whole other element, and of course, he's given this informant, and he puts all of his credibility on this informant. Well, this informant's absolutely disproven, and we can unwrap that, and I can demonstrate to you how we can conclusively say that Michael Robinson was the name of this informant, was lying in regard to this case. For Phil Carson, he came on to this case back in, around the time that the lawsuit was being waged, because he read into these claims against police corruption and read into Russell Poole's allegations that David Mack was, so he opened up his own FBI investigation into the LAPD to probe into corruption. And he began to uncover things that in his mind was substantiating these claims. But he was relying on people who were lying. And instead of just accept and realize at some point in time that, I've lost my objectivity. And that's exactly what happened to Russell Poole. And so now all we have is an FBI version of Russell Poole out there who refuses to accept the known facts instead of the speculation that is driving his narrative.
Well, the last thing that Reggie Wright wanted you to touch on, and I guess we've talked about this on the show before, Keffe D's confession.
We get so much of that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've talked about it many times.
And by the way, let me let everybody know that I have Keefe D ready to do a Keefe D sit down. Me and Keefe D gonna sit down at the round table and we're gonna discuss the.
Is that right?
The logistics.
I'm saying, is that right?
Yeah. He be here tonight at 8:30.
Oh, okay. Well, one question I do have about Keefe D confession is, why did it get leaked? did you leak it? And that information being out there puts Keefe D in a very dangerous situation, something that he didn't even know he was being recorded at all the entire time. So how did it become public, this confession?
So when we sat down with Keefe D, myself, the FBI, Keefe D's lawyer, we sat down under what's known as a proffer agreement, and he divulged all of the details about what took place in Las Vegas the night Tupac was shot. At that point in time, we're just going through the investigative, kind of investigative process until I retired, and I came to the realization that these crimes, the public is never going to know what we did in this investigation and the information that we attained. And so I took it upon myself to say, listen, and I went and met with Keefe D before I did it, by the way. He knew that I was releasing the information. I went to his house. We sat in my truck, and I said, here's the deal. You're never going to probably get prosecuted on this, but I'm going to expose what you did. Wow. And I said, I'm just letting you know ahead of time. I'm writing a book, and I'm going to tell the story. And listen, you got a huge break on the dope case that we built against you, which was 25 to life. You're walking away on a murder. So if the punishment for you is that the public knows the truth about what you did, well, then that's just the fucking way it's going to be.
But it should have made him it shouldn't have hurt him. And that's not the part that's hurting Keefe D's situation. It's just the fact that people know that he sat down with the police and discussed his nephew. That's what's hurting him.
Yeah, well, I think it's two things that's going to hurt Keefe D for the rest of his life. One, that he got exposed as an informant, a snitch, in some way.
Not really.
However you want.
No.
Come on, man. When you're telling the police, this person killed that person.
But see, you got to look at it like this. My nephew is dead, and he took advantage of that because he was fighting 25 to life, right? He got caught with some drugs.
Yeah.
So if I can speak on this, my nephew and them, all these cats is gone. So if I can speak on that, he used that shit as a street ticket to get out of this situation.
Completely understand.
Did that. But he didn't, what fucked him up is he didn't think that Greg was going to put it out there that you told on your nephew.
And that's my point.
Now here you got a man that made it beat a 25 to life 2 times.
I thought it was a smart move on his part because he knew that no one was going to go to jail, no one's going to prison, no one's getting indicted, and I get to go home.
Exactly.
But still, I'm talking about the way the public will perceive him.
Right.
One, you told. And two, now we know for sure you killed my favorite rapper in the world.
Well, hate him for that. Hate me for that. But
when you and I speak one little negative thing about Pac, they go in on us.
They do.
Now imagine how they're feeling about Keefe D.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly.
So you kind of put him out there on those two things, which
I did.
Which could actually get him killed if he's not careful.
Yeah, and I'm not sorry I did it. You know, he's who he is. I told him what I was going to do. His response was, "Oh, fuck it then. I'm a gangster. I'll handle that shit." That's exactly what he told me. And said, "Okay, well, that's your decision. That's your life. That's you. Go do you." I'm telling the world what the fuck happened because this story is more important than you. In fact, I think this story is more important than your life.
So what was your process of getting that out to the public? Who did you turn to, and how did we all learn about this confession?
So I ended up getting a guy that was a professional writer, and we sat down and I said, would you like to collaborate on this? And he said, yeah. And, I got a publishing contract with Random House, and we wrote the rough draft, and then Random House got it, and they read what was in the book, and they're like, we ain't publishing this, man. We ain't doing pointing some fingers at Puffy Combs. His office is right across the street from ours. We're not having that. He's very litigious, and he's just going to not, appreciate what you're saying about him in this book. I was like, all right, well, I've got this material, and I know that I can defend it, and I think that when Puffy reads it, he's going to know it's true anyways, and that I wasn't in fear of being sued, and so I published it, and it ran its course.
Wow. I just think it all should be over. Let these guys rest. We know ain't nobody going to jail for it. Everybody lost. Everybody lost something to somebody, in this game, this death row thing. Nobody came out on top, period. Suge Knight, 500-some million, 28 years in prison. Everybody lost. So I think it should be buried up under a rug somewhere, and people just need to accept what's really out there, the truth. The killers are dead. So you ain't finna get a conviction, let it go. But people still see money and other things in this. But it's over.
Well, Greg, can you tell everybody where they can get your book and let us know what's going on with you?
Yeah, so Murder Rap, you can find it on Amazon.com, anywhere where books are sold. You can download it. There's a digital version, and then of course that led to a documentary that's likely titled also Murder Rap, and then there's a series that's kind of loosely based on the book called Unsolved. It was on on Netflix last year.
I binge watched that a few months ago. It was pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yeah. I mean, you go one episode into the next episode, and it was well done.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I thought so too.
That was USA, right? USA?
Originally it was USA, and then Netflix picked it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? Are you on social media, on the internet, website?
Man, I'm so easy to find. I've got a Facebook page, and people ask me questions on Twitter. I just throw my email out there, so I'm always around and available to answer questions because I put myself out there, and so now I have to deal with the responsibility of that. And if people have questions, and nothing's off the table, because I feel that information is power.
Sure is.
And
sure
when
is.
people want to have closure, or they want to find out what took place with these two gentlemen, I'm going to do everything I can to get those facts straight.
I just have this one final question. We didn't get to talk about it. I had it here in my notes, but I'm sure in your investigation, the Frank Liga and Kevin Gaines shooting came up. Mm-hmm. Was there anything about these two cops that had a road rage incident important in the investigation of the Biggie killing?
No, the only real connection between that incident and in the murder investigation was just the lead that Kevin Gaines was involved in a relationship with Suge Knight. I'm sorry, with Suge Knight's wife.
Sharitha.
With Sharitha. And the car that he was driving the day that encounter took place was registered to her. And so for Russell Poole, what came to mind is like, okay, why is this LAPD officer involved in a relationship with this rapper's, this CEO's wife from this record label? So that was kind of for him, like, what's going on? Why are our officers mixing with these people? And then as that question began to get asked, we found out that there were quite a few cops from different agencies that were working for Death Row Records under Right-Way Security. Well, that's problematic for law enforcement because it's from their perspective a conflict of interest. You've got an organization that is perceived as criminal to a certain degree, with a bunch of gang members hanging out and drugs being dealt around the studios and a bunch of people with guns, and then cops there providing security. So that was from the law enforcement perspective. That's unacceptable. You're not going to mix those worlds.
Once again, they gangsters too.
Kevin Gaines was never found to have been a corrupt cop, right?
No, there was a couple of road rage incidents.
It gets that label a lot, even though...
no, there's no indication that he was a corrupt cop. No, but he had a temper, and there was some reports about him having prior road rage accidents or incidents. And so when it came down to you really just only two people were there. One lived, one didn't. So now you're only left with the story of the guy who survived. And he says that guy pulled up and was creating problems with me, and I was defending myself. Well, it's kind of substantiated by the fact that, there was a pattern for Kevin Gaines to have doing that type of thing. He just never encountered another armed cop before.
Well, we're about to wrap up, but on that note, Frank Liga claims Kevin Gaines pulled his gun out first, and then he shot in defense. Okay. But if Kevin Gaines pulled his gun out first, wouldn't at least one bullet been fired? Something, some sort of shooting from his side come?
It's just pure speculation. You know, if Gaines pulls his gun out really with no intent to shoot, he's just like, oh, I'm scared of this motherfucker.
Okay, that's a possibility,
you know?
Yeah.
And then Liga's already got his gun out because he's a cop who's expecting problems. So, boom, he just shoots back real quick. That's probably the likely scenario.